G'day YouTubers, I am Necro Arcanus X-Triple-I in association with Banner 1569, bringing you the next chapter in Book 1 of the Crusade Chronicles, Hill's Crusade. If you have not yet watched chapters 1 through 10, do so now to avoid spoilers. Everybody reached the top of the stairwell, but there was debris blocking the entryway. Vincent tried to push it out, but he could not budge it. All eyes then suddenly turned to Stan. "What are you looking at me for?" he asked. "We're not looking at you," said Dante. "We're looking at that big-ass helmet of yours." Stan tried to back off, so it took John, Dante, Vincent, Luke, Spearin, and Jack to grab a hold of Stan and throw him into the debris like a battering ram. Stan soared through the debris with ease and landed back out. His voice could then be heard shouting, guys, you have to come see this." Everybody ran outside to see that the entire school building had been levelled. Saberfang lay unconscious amongst the rubble, and Brian and Adele were nowhere to be seen. John tried to wake up the wolf. "What happened here?" he shouted. Saberfang only moaned and rolled to his other side. Dante then ran over and kicked Saberfang whilst yelling out his name, only to receive a sharp bite to the ankle. "Shut the fuck up," groaned Saberfang as he slowly staggered to his feet. "Where are the others?" asked Raziel. "I managed to get up here," replied Saberfang, "and I saw Brian fending off soldiers, so I hid Adele somewhere to help him. I came outside to help Brian fight off the next wave, but..." Saberfang turned to face a number of people tied to the stake and burned alive. "But then I was hit by an explosive device. Brian is not amongst the corpses. The last thing I saw, he was dragged off somewhere by people I didn't recognise. They don't seem to have any connection to the military, otherwise they would not have been torched." "Right then," said John. "I'll bring the Wonder Twins and the four of us will hunt down Brian. The rest of you look for Adele." Vincent immediately noticed something on the ground. "Adele headband here," he said. Everybody turned to see Vincent standing in the dirt. John and Saberfang both studied the ground around where Adele's headband lay. John pointed out an indentation in the dirt. "This drag mark here shows that somebody had pulled her out of the rubble," he said. "It stops, meaning she was only left here." Saberfang then began sniffing at the air. "Her scent travels in a rising arc," he said. "It leads towards our house. She could have woken up, seen the chaos, and ran home in the hopes of finding somebody. Her headband probably just fell off as she got up." The pair turned around and noticed a similar mark on the ground. "This is bigger," said John. "It doesn't come from the building, so Brian could have been felled here, and this is where it was dragged from. The trail ends at the concrete road, but flecks of dirt are dragged with it, slightly extending the trail." Saberfang began sniffing at the marks in the dirt and ran off, following the scent. John, Raziel and Dante followed after, and the trail led up into the old forest path, eventually reaching some old, familiar ruins. Amongst them was an obsidian altar, and around it were bones and dust. "I feel something strange here," said Raziel. "Did somebody die here or something?" "No," replied John calmly. "This is where a hero started his journey." John could not help but stare at the altar in the middle of the clearing before running off after Saberfang. But the wolf had somehow disappeared. "Where the hell are you, Fang?" shouted John. "I'm right here," said Saberfang. He could be heard, but not seen. "I can't see you," he said. "Stranger," added Raziel. Saberfang then suddenly appeared out of nowhere, his body glowing in multiple colours as he walked towards the three. "Can you see me now?" he asked. "What the hell is going on here?" asked Dante. John walked past and felt the air just in front of Saberfang. He tapped at thin air, and the sky wobbled and glowed. "An invisibility field?" he asked. John walked through slowly with his hands stretched out, and disappeared. The others quickly followed to see what was being hidden. Inside the field was an old, dilapidated building. The glass windows were cracked and broken. The stone brick walls were falling apart, and the wooden beams and roof were rotting. Raziel heard somebody approaching, and he urged everybody to duck into the bushes on either side. Two girls wearing familiar-looking school outfits walked past. That moronic male will make a fitting sacrifice, said one of the girls who had brown hair. How dare he keep that poor girl hostage, said the other, who had dyed green pigtails. When she wakes up, she'll be glad we rescued her, added the first. Once the girls had left, Dante poked his head out. Rescued, he said. More like nearly fucking killed. Still, they seem quite confident, ditzy, almost hippie-like, and carefree. Raziel then poked his head up. What are you suggesting, Dante? He said. What? I'm just going to say that whatever the hell they're on, I'll take 2 of them. After everything we've gone through today, I've got a splitting fucking headache. John and Saberfang climbed out of the bushes, and they saw an old sign next to Dante that was too weathered to be able to read. But the circular symbol that was seen in the basement of the school was on the sign, right next to the impaled crow with the ark. I know I've seen that symbol in real life before, said John. Still, why would they be hanging out here? Are they part of some sort of feminism cult? Looks like it, replied Dante. Raziel then checked his phone. I think this is that college, but it looks too abandoned to be it. Besides, this photo looks a lot bigger. John started to move on. Whatever is here, we'll find it, and hopefully Brian. John jumped into the building through a broken window and began looking around. Nothing here, he said. No other girls, no symbols, no artifacts of any kind. Raziel looked around and spotted something. What's that? A door? John turned around and definitely saw an iron dungeon-style door. The circular symbol was etched onto the lock, but when John opened it, it just led back outside. He exited the building and closed the door behind him, waiting for the others to catch up. Maybe, said Saberfang, this building is just an illusion. The true building lies inside that door. Leaving does nothing, but what if we entered? John turned around and faced the wolf. You may have a point there, he said. Let's check it out. John carefully opened the door a crack, just in case. He peeked inside and did in fact see the true interior of the building, hidden through some sort of magical portal. However, he saw somebody approaching and closed the door quickly. Hide! He shouted. The door opened itself just as the group was hidden, and a girl with short, blonde hair and glasses poked her head out, looking around. She eventually just shrugged her shoulders. Probably just the wind, she said, before closing the door firmly. The group then stood up in the bushes, but did not leave them. Saberfang stood fully erect on his hind legs, sniffing at the air. I didn't know you could do that, said Dante. How do you think I've been stealing food off the benches? Replied Saberfang. I'm still learning though, but at least I don't have to hang on to something to stand up. Still, I can't wait to assume human form. I'll finally be able to be social with other intelligent species. You'd be surprised, Fang, said Dante. Most humans are just dumb, shallow, vain bastards. Says their representative, laughed Raziel. Shit, duck, shouted John. Everybody jumped back into the bushes at John's warning as the 2 girls from earlier were coming back. I can't believe she's gone, said the brunette. She must have just woken up and walked home, replied the pigtail girl. I just hope she got back there safely without any more of them bastards attacking her. It's a shame though. She was such a strong, pretty thing. She'd be useful among our ranks. Hey, you know what? She kind of reminded me of that girl in the dorm next to ours. Facial features almost match exactly, but their eyes are kind of different. Never seen anybody with purple eyes before. Now beautiful, weren't they? Like gemstones. The 2 girls entered the building and disappeared. Then Dante poked his head out. Bloody lesbians, he muttered. John then jumped up with a backflip, smacking Dante upside the head in midair. What the hell was that for? Shouted Dante. Don't judge people for their lifestyles, said John. And before you say anything, the only reason I take yours out on you is because you're a bloody idiot. Anyway, we need to sneak past them. Fang's gonna have to stay here though, amongst a group of girls that can sniff out a smelly hand the instant he walks in the door. Will you stick a bit? Protested Saberfang. They'll smell you too. Not really. I know for a fact that Dante wears a perfume cologne. Just a quick spritz and we'll fit in. But they'll still see you. I know a few forms of invisibility, said Raziel. Humans can only see because of the photons and light rays bouncing off of us. If Dad and I use a spell that causes the photons to bend around us, we'll be practically invisible. The only flaw is, up close, one will be able to see the light curving, so we'll have to be careful. Dante can do that thing he does where he turns into smoke. Just for the record, said Dante, I'll call it wind walking. And it's only useful if I move around, so I won't be able to stop and listen in on a crowd or something. Then just walk around in a circle on the spot and we'll report back with Fang afterwards. Dante pulled a small bottle out of his jacket and sprayed John and Raziel with it. The three men then cast their spells and turned invisible before Saberfang's eyes. Dante then tapped whoever he could on the shoulder. I can wind walk through the keyhole and scout ahead, he said, but you're probably going to have to wait until somebody comes out. Okay, said Raziel. Be careful, and if you manage to stumble across the girls' sleeping quarters, please refrain yourself from acting like an utter bastard like you always are with women. Don't worry, I hate feminists anyway. Pissed them off, they always aim where it matters most. At that moment, the blonde girl from earlier left the door, and Dante waited for just the right moment to hold it open without her noticing. He waited until he heard John and Raziel run past until he shut it behind him. Saberfang had no invisibility, so he had to act the part of a wild animal, scaring off the girl when she went to pet him. After she had disappeared, he began laughing to himself. Still got it, he said. He then lay down in the bushes and pretended to go to sleep. Meanwhile, the three men inside began to go their separate ways. John immediately entered the first open door he came across, which was a dark dungeon. He looked around and spotted Brian, sound asleep in the corner atop a mass of rotten hay, chained to the wall. There was a single female guard watching him atop the stairs at the entrance with hatred in her eyes. Her head and face were hidden by some sort of feathered hat. John sneaked up to the guard and jammed his thumb into a vein on her neck, forcing her to pass out instantly. John quickly caught her without anybody noticing and took her downstairs to lay her on the floor. He then broke invisibility and ran down the steps. Her began snapping the chains around Brian's ankle, waking him up. John placed his hand over Brian's mouth to silence him while he worked on his shackles around his ankle. Bending the broken links and sharpening it on the stone floor, John picked the remaining locks and set Brian free. Thank God you're alright, he said. We need to get you out of here before they friggin' incinerate you. We need to find an open window or something. Right, I think there's one in the room across, said Brian. I saw it while I was being dragged here. So why the hell didn't you break loose and run? Well, they're well armed. I mean, if two teenage girls managed to take me down, imagine what a whole college full can do to me. I just pretend to be asleep and waited to pick the lock during the guard change, but problem is I actually fell asleep. Right. But the door's now shut, so how are we going to open it without nobody noticing us? Even though I can turn us invisible, somebody's going to notice the door opening all by itself. Brian looked over at the sleeping guard. I have an idea, he said. Since we're going to be invisible, we can string her up like a puppet and waltz out there. John gave Brian a sincere look. What? Said Brian. I thought it was a great plan. It is actually. John took a length of clear fishing line out of his pockets. Why the hell do you carry around fishing line? Asked Brian. Why not? Replied John. In the wild, it's stronger than twine you can make from plants, making it useful for traps, and it's a pretty useful execution tool when you're a hired assassin. You strap around someone's neck and they'll choke to death and can't scream for help either. You are one sick bastard. Whatever is necessary to fulfill my missions as a mercenary. John started to cast a spell, making him and Brian invisible. Just stay close and you can still see me. Right, now let's play puppetry. Brian could hardly see John's outline in the darkness, but he could see how well the plan was working. Right then, said John. You stay behind and move her legs. I'll tie her wrists and ankles to mine so that when I walk around and turn the doorknob it's going to look believable. No wonder you lived this long, said Brian. John and Brian prepared to leave, but at that moment another girl entered the room, forcing them to hide in the shadows along with the body. The girl shrieked and called out to the others, alerting them that the prisoner had escaped. Damn it, whispered John. We're going to have to make a break for it. John and Brian dashed up the stairs and barged into the room across, knowing that the girls would run after him upon hearing the door open. John opened the window, shoved Brian and himself into a corner, and waited. Sure enough, a whole group of the women barged into the room and saw the open window. Shit, he's escaped, said the brunette girl. Cheryl's got to be taken off of guard duty permanently. That's the 5th one this week. The group left and slammed the door behind him. John broke his and Brian's invisibility before looking around to see that they were in a storage room full of broken weapons and useless trinkets. However, John began to gather up any jewellery, metal ingots and precious stones that he could find, shoving them into his pockets. "What are you doing?" asked Brian. "I'm getting something for Adele's birthday," replied John. "Even though it's half a year away, it's nice to be prepared. And besides, my anniversary's coming up, so I thought I'd make something nice and send it up to Mars." "You romantic bastard." "Well, last year the missus found the first Land Rover that NASA sent up there and sent me some engine parts. I melted down scraps and made a locket for her, which I hid her wedding ring inside, seeing as she forgot it when she left." "Wedding ring? I thought you didn't marry her." "I didn't, for various reasons, but I made her a ring and had a ceremony all the same just so she could have one. I would have let you be the best man, but you're out of town." "Well, thanks for thinking of me." "No worries, mate. I got all I need, so let's get you out. Saberfang's outside, he'll escort you home. You're staying here?" "I brought the Wonder Twins with me, knowing Dante he's going to do something stupid and break his cover, so I have to find him before they do." "Right then, see you back at the house." John turned to the door and thought of a way to get out of the room. He could hear the gargoyle being yelled at by a woman with a dark, familiar voice. "Damn it, Shori, you've let him go." "I'm sorry, I don't know what happened." "You're being taken off of guard duty. Alessa and Dahlia are taking your place." "Sorry, matron." John found his opportunity and threw down one of the cabinets before turning invisible again. Well, something just fell in the storage room. Go clean up while I think of a punishment for you." "Yes, matron." John leapt up and began clinging to the wall above the door, waiting for it to open. Once it was, and the passage was clear, he crawled out of the room like a spider crawling around a wall, staying on the high parts of the roof to avoid close-range detection. He then overheard a small group of girls talking, but it was too high up to see who exactly was talking. "Hey, there's a strange new smell going around here. I wonder if somebody's got a new perfume." "I don't know, but I just love it." "Hey, we should go ask around and see who's got it." "Good idea." The group then ran off in random directions, revealing a passageway. The scent of Dante's cologne was strong, so John thought that he was in the next room. Crawling around the wall to find a large recreational area, reminding him of the gym at the school when he went there, John could suddenly hear Dante whispering, "Man, oh man, it's a hot girl convention out there. Shame I can't get at 'em." John quietly shouted out Dante's name, and a nearby trash can suddenly fell over. "Who the hell's that?" whispered Dante. "It's your father," replied John. "Oh shit." "Damn right. Go find your brother and get out of here. I'll see what else I can find out, but if you don't find Raz in 10 minutes, head outside without him. Fang should be waiting for you." Silence passed. "Now!" growled John. "Fine," growled Dante in response. John scurried further up the wall and started looking around. Meanwhile, almost ironically, Raziel had come across the girls' dormitories. He then began looking around and whispered out, "Dante, are you there?" No response came, so Raziel assumed that he was alone. He could see a girl in the distance leaning against the door, wearing Gothic-style makeup comprised of a powdered white face, with her eyes and lips coloured black. Her hair was tied back in a ponytail. She was carrying around a silver locket. Upon closer inspection, Raziel noticed that she was upset about something, as her grey-coloured eyes were heavy with sorrow. The blonde girl with glasses suddenly entered the corridor and called out to her, "Hey, is something wrong?" "I'm normal," replied the other girl. "How are you?" "I was nearly attacked by a wolf outside. Then again, I probably spooked him because the instant I ran away, he just went back to sleep." "Maybe. You know, you've been strange for a while now. Ever since you got that necklace in the mail, you've been acting all dark and depressing. It's really bringing us all down." The girl sighed. "You're right. Ever since I got this thing, it's brought me nothing but bad memories. Remind me how pathetic life is without your loved ones." The girl broke the necklace and threw it down upon the floor. "If you ask me," replied the blonde, "I'm just glad you don't cut your wrists like all the other dark psychos." "Believe me," replied the other girl, "if I lose whatever last shred of self-esteem I have left, I might just start." The girl then entered the door she was leaning on and slammed it shut. Bitchy, said the blonde. "Makes me wonder how she gets away with all the stuff she says." The girl walked off into a room further down the corridor. Raziel then came out of hiding and picked up the locket. He flicked it open and looked inside. There were 2 photos that seemed to be of the same girl, aged about 3 years old. A small metal mechanism inside had folded out when the locket was opened, and it had a Latin phrase engraved on it. Raziel studied it carefully and began to decipher it. "Father's little angels," he whispered. The pictures were held in glass frames that were cracked. He could tell that the right picture was the girl in grey eyes. Raziel began fiddling with it and managed to take out the picture on the left, and his eyes widened upon noticing what colour the girl's eyes were. "Purple!" he exclaimed. Raziel was stunned at his finding. Quickly, he placed the picture back inside the frame and took a small notebook, which had a pen attached, out of his pocket, and he began to write something down. He tore the page out and folded it up so that it fitted inside the locket with a corner poking out. He then fixed the chain and hung it on the door. He then knocked quickly and crawled up the wall, while simultaneously turning invisible. The dark girl poked her head out and began screaming. "What?" She saw nothing, but then she noticed the locket swinging around on the handle. Furthermore, she noticed the paper sticking out, which is what Raziel had planned. Her neighbour, which turned out to be the brunette girl walking around the pigtailed girl, came out to see what was going on, mocking in a sing-songy voice. "I heard someone shouting again," she said. "What's annoying you this time?" Silence passed. "Hey, what's that?" "Come here, Alyssa," said the dark girl. "Somebody left this note for me." "What does it say?" "For both yours and my safety, I can't tell you who I am or where I live, but your sister is alive. She's been living with me for nearly 14 years after you were separated. When I go back home, I'll tell her where you are, and one day we'll come find you." "By the goddess, we have to tell Dahlia." The girl called out up to the hallway. "Hey, Kirsten!" The blonde girl poked her head out of her door. "What?" she replied. "Where's Dahlia?" "Doing her rounds, I think." "Try the library. Come on, we've got something incredible to show her." The 3 girls ran out of the room with the locket, allowing Raziel to take a breather. Once the girls were no longer in audible range, a small shuffling noise could be heard. John then suddenly decloaked right in front of Raziel. "Of all the places to run into you," he said. "I thought Dante would disobeyed my orders and come here." At that moment, another shuffling noise could be heard. John then pointed back out the corridor. "Piss off, Dante," he said. "Ah, shit," said Dante. "Talk about a smart ass," commented Raziel. "You go on ahead," said John. "I'll stay here a little bit and see if I can find anything else." "Right then," said Raziel. "I discovered something amazing. I'll tell you when we get back home." Raziel recloaked and ran out of the room. John then began looking around. "There isn't much here for me," he said, as he turned to the end of the corridor, "unless it's a locked door with barred windows." John ran over to the door he spotted and opened his mouth, pulling out one of his canine teeth, which appeared to have been held in place by magnetised pins. "Thanks, Jack," muttered John as he proceeded to pick at the lock until the door opened, at which point he had to slip the tooth back into his mouth. He then slid inside the door as he heard another door open. He peeked out of the keyhole to see there was a ginger-haired girl walking around. He breathed a sigh of relief, but froze when he heard somebody talking. "What the hell is that noise?" "I know I did not hear no noise." "Damn sure there are no prisoners up here. If there are, I'll kill them." John turned around to see another guard walking around, seemingly oblivious to his presence as she was facing away from him. "Huh," commented John. "First black woman other than Bob in a bad mood I've seen for years." John creeped up and pinched a nerve on the girl's shoulder, causing her to pass out. "You know, I don't think I've ever seen a black person this dark either," he said. "Reckon she's nighttime hide-and-seek champion around here." John began looking around a series of cell blocks and came across a shriveled up little boy with a white shirt and blue jeans in one of the cells. John flipped up his skull mask to look less threatening and called out to the boy. "Hey buddy, what are you doing here?" "These mean girls put me in here and forgot about me," replied the boy. "Then some other lady came in here and scared me." "Do you want to go back home?" "Yeah, Mummy will be happy to see me. I've been gone for days." John stood up and bent the bars of the cell open to let the boy out, before moving the bars back. so it wouldn't look suspicious. "You're strong," said the boy. "You're like Superman." "You could say that," said John. "Climb on my back and don't let go." The boy did as John told him and climbed up. John then took a running leap out of a window that had no bars and landed safely about 30 stories below. He looked around to where Sabafang was supposed to be waiting, but nobody was there. "They must have gone home," he thought to himself. John started running like a streak of light, making the pathway from the college to the outside of Mountain Heights' borders in under a minute, when the walking distance could have taken over a half hour at most. "What happened to the school?" asked the boy. "Bad people broke it," replied John. "Where do you live?" "I live just down the road to the left. Thank you for saving me." John let the boy off his back and watched him run home with a smile on his face. He waited until the boy had reached his house and rang the doorbell before placing his mask back over its face and walked home, rather pleased knowing that there was still some pure good left in the world. Back home, John waltzed into the lounge room to see that everybody was gathered, but Adele was passed out on the couch. He then noticed that Spearin was hiding in the corner. "What are you doing there?" he asked. "I have confirmed that Adele is my niece," replied the demon. "However, seeing me as I am would be a shock to her. I thought I would give her a bit of breathing space before I introduce myself. Don't demons have the ability to disguise themselves as humans? I do not have that power at the moment." John could not help that Raziel was standing near Adele, shaking violently. "This isn't good," he said. "I can see it. Her heart rate is dropping." "Damn it," said John. "She's our main medic. We're gonna have to resort to every alternative we've got." John ducked behind the bar to look for the Necronomicon, but it had disappeared. "Where the hell's the book?" shouted John. Brian raised his left arm to reveal a satchel strapped to a new leather reinforced rope belt. "Take it out," said John. "I need a section on healing arts." Brian opened the satchel and pulled out the book, flicking through all the pages. "Category Magenta, subsection Epsilon," he muttered. "How the hell do you remember that?" asked John. "That is a complex system I used to sort out all of the household files." "Well, I've developed some sort of photographic memory when it comes to reading," replied Brian. "Before the Empire came in, I used it to memorize all the different liquors that the tourists requested. Now I just read through the book while we're waiting for you." Brian flicked through the pages until he came across the pages that were needed. "Based on what powers we have at hand," he said, "we have very few limited options. Raziel could use a reversal of the Life Tap spell to transfer some of his life force to Adele, but that could kill him if he makes a mistake. I could concoct a medical salve, but I'm missing a few ingredients. Bob's magic might be useful, but it's too dangerous. Fang could be needed if she wakes up with a headache. Vincent and Dante's magic is useless. Jack has no magic, and I could barely trust Stan's magic even if all of our lives depended on it. So unless you've got a solution, John, we've got nothing." John grabbed the Necronomicon off of Brian and searched for every magical spell he had recorded. "Nothing!" he exclaimed. "Perhaps you need a new page for your tome," said Spearin. Everybody turned to the demon, who was pointing at the fireplace. The wood inside suddenly burst into flame, and Spearin reached inside. "I don't know how fire's going to fix this," said Raziel. "Fire is not just a destructive force," said Spearin. "It is a volatile element, yes, but is also the most emotional, hence the term of burning passion." Spearin clutched something inside the fire and pulled it out. "I left these in hell when I deserted. I guess I have no choice but to take up the blaze forged for the bloods of gods once more." Spearin pulled out two large daggers, each shaped like a phoenix. One of the daggers had several rubies embedded in it, while the other had a set of holes. Dante then pointed out that the daggers had 4 blades pointing out of them. One of the blades was far longer than the other, nearly reaching 30 centimeters, while the others were only around 8. Dante fell over laughing while mimicking the gesture with his own hands, and Luke was downright worried for the boy's sanity. "Man, take a chill pill," he said. "Oh, I ran out," wheezed Dante. "I was gonna go see my guy later." John twisted his head nearly 3/4 of the way around to glare at Dante. "Are you doing drugs, boy?" he shouted. "No, I got a prescription from the pharmacy," said Dante. It's the shit they give to mental patients to stop them from being psychos. I use it to help me sleep, but, well, I was going to tell you, but then we had to attack the school, so I was going to tell you after, and here we are now. Don't need drugs to help sleep, said Vincent. I can club you in head at bedtime. That's what I was going to say, commented John. Then again, I might just start. Spear held the daggers out to show that each had a handguard shaped like a wing that was on the side opposite the elongated blade. He then connected the two together, forming the full phoenix shape. Spear held the dagger over Adele with his left arm, pointing the blades down. I get it, said Raziel. That blade's got healing powers because phoenix tears are said to be a miracle cure. Sure enough, small drops of fluid shed from the eyes of the phoenix head on the dagger hilt. They trickled down, igniting into liquid fire the instant they touched Spear's skin, and eventually reached the blades, where the positioning allowed the tears to drip down into Adele's eyes. The flames were extinguished and turned back into liquid that was absorbed by the skin in her eyelids. Spear then lowered his weapon and slowly stepped back. Will this work? Asked Raziel. Strange of you to worry so much about her, said Dante. I think you've been getting along a bit too well lately. Raziel just turned to Dante and from out of nowhere delivered a champion's knockout punch, breaking Dante's nose with a sickening crack. Luke and Stan both exclaimed in surprise, and Vincent applauded his brother's show of strength. John then sighed and shook his head. Cut the crap, Raz, he said. I know Adele's fallen head over heels for ya. Raziel then turned to John. How did you know about that? He asked. John gave a sinister grin. I know now. Well, it's more of a confirmation really. She's been showing signs for at least 3 years. I've seen it before in movies and real life how the typical teenage crush develops. Problem is you're not focused enough, is that the right term? And I focused enough on women to actually notice this. I've been getting Dante to drop hits for 2.5 years. At that moment, everybody turned back upon hearing Adele groan in pain. Adele? Asked Raziel worriedly. Adele's eyes barely fluttered open. Raziel, thank the gods it's you, she said. Are you okay? I was having a nightmare. I feel sick from seeing it. You can tell me about that later. At the moment, you may want to sit up for this. Raziel helped Adele sit up and spin her so that he could sit next to her. You're going to get a bit of a shock out of this, he said. Adele squinted into a blurry mess as her brain tried to comprehend the reality of what she was seeing. Spearin was squatting on the ground before her, but as he stood up, Adele froze in panic. Holy crap, there's a demon in here, she said. That's right, said Raziel. Spearin is not only a demon, but he's your uncle, Adele. Adele looked at Raziel, then back up to Spearin, but she eventually came to realise that this was her reality, and she was meeting her long-lost uncle. Adele stood up and tried to make eye contact with the incredibly tall demon, whose horns nearly touched the roof, but Spearin knelt down so that he and Adele were face to face. She was hesitant, but eventually sensed the kindred soul inside of him, and rushed forward to greet him, and hugged him tightly. In turn, he was hesitant to hug her back, but eventually gave in. You know, the last time I saw you is when you were just born, said Spearin. You've become a grown woman, and luckily, nothing like your mother. Adele was taken by surprise at this comment. Is that just a remnant of sibling rivalry? She asked. Sadly, no. Your mother is a heartless bitch. I used to be a soldier in the forces of God, but I was slain, and my soul reborn in the body of a demon. Your mother, my new older sister, had kidnapped my former comrade, the Angel of War Samael, and forced him to father you. When I had heard that your mother planned on using you and your sister for sacrifice, I immediately quit my position as the general of an army to begin a search to save your souls from her clutches. I'm sorry it took so long, but now I'm here. I can protect you as I have promised. Well, you don't have to worry about it too much, said John. As you can see, I have identified Adele as a Nephilim, and I have been protecting her in my own way. I've even taught her how to fight in self-defense because of all the random weirdos you find out in the street. Spearin stood up and faced John. so you have acted as the father figure she needed in Samael's stead, he said. It wasn't exactly for Samael, it was for his fiancée. She's a dear friend of mine, you know. Had your sister not taken him away, she could have had a happy childhood, without any demon blood to draw evil force to her like a beacon of innocence. And her sister as well. Hang on, interrupted Raziel. That brings the second half of my news. I think I found Adele's sister. Everybody turned to face Raziel, and Luke turned his head fast enough that he injured his neck. She's up at that creepy college, said Raziel. I left her an anonymous note telling her that Adele was alive, and that we'll come find her for a reunion when activity up at that college has settled down a bit. Thanks to Sir gets his ass kicked by a group of college girls a lot. Dante, having just woken up, managed to let out a weak laugh. Raziel then began patting Adele on the back, and Dante was about to make a snidely comment when he began to let out a disgusting choking noise. I think I got heartburn, he said. Raziel then smiled and turned to Luke. Do you remember that Brian suggested you heal Adele with electric shock? He asked. Yeah, replied Luke. I was actually thinking it would work until Brian said it was dangerous. I mean, it only works on mental patients, half the time. Dante choked again. You're mental for suggesting it, he said. Raziel smiled more. Heal Dante, will you? He said. Luke stretched his fingers out, and a bolt of lightning flew across the room and launched Dante up into the air, causing him to land back on the floor. Dante then stood up, and his hair was in a statically charged bowl of spikes, which caused everybody to crack up laughing, apart from the obvious one out. Dante then stormed off to his bedroom while muttering a curse. Now that that's settled, said John. Suddenly, he was interrupted by a receiving phone call. Putting his cell phone against his ear, he was startled to hear who was on the other line, and just what they had to say. And that was Chapter 11. Sorry for cutting this a bit short, but that's how it goes. I don't really have much to talk about this chapter, but I will say that the next few chapters concerning that crazy college took inspiration from the Silent Hill series, if you haven't figured that out already. I think my deadest giveaway is that most of the names of the women given during the chapter are names of Silent Hill characters, mainly Cheryl, Dahlia, and Alessa. And that's all the time I have for now, so the music credits. As the chapter starts, promised Reprise from Silent Hill 2 plays. When everybody finds out that Adele and Brian are missing, Devil's Ambition from Final Fantasy IX makes its third appearance in a row. When John and the boys are exploring the college, Phantom Forest from Final Fantasy VI plays. During the scene with the mysterious goth girl, the Crisis Core remix of Aerith's theme from Final Fantasy VII plays, titled A Flower Blooming in the Slums. Interesting. Finally, during the aftermath back at the Necros's base, the song True from Silent Hill 2 plays. I think that's all, so before I go, I should make a spoiler alert shout out. Bandit 1569 himself is going to appear in the next chapter as a main character, joining the ranks of the Necro Crusader Sin in Batarum. What wacky adventures and powers will he have? Find out next time on Hell's Crusade, as a shocking predicament leads to all-out war in which one of the Necros will die. Who will it be? Time will tell. For I am Necro Arcanist X-Triple I in association with Bandit 1569, signing off. Stay classy, YouTube.